All right, yo, what's going on, everybody? Sorry I'm running a little bit late here. I just got caught up responding to comments upstairs and I lost track of time. Normally, I set a timer for myself or an alarm so that way I don't forget. And today I just forgot to do that because my timer was set for a timeout that I had to put the girls in for a little bit today. But I'm here now. Apologize for being late. Hopefully you guys are doing well. It is a little bit after 3 o'clock today here in Guttenberg, Iowa. Wednesday, June 24th, 2020. All right, we've got, let's see who's here. J. Mike Remy's here. Not really Hank Aaron, Joshua Payne, Luis Becerra, Frank LaHoulier. Awesome. Good to see you guys here again. Let me turn this down a little bit. Seems like I'm a little bright. There we go. All right. Let's see. Yeah, someone was saying that thought I might be getting late back from Casey's. I've only been going to Casey's for gas so far, but every time I go, I see there's a giant sign on the side for taco pizza, and I'm like, well, maybe we can get taco pizza. But we're still kind of like, we're not quarantining, but we're also trying to like minimize our contact with like the general public here as much as possible. So, yeah, so just going to Casey's for gas, no taco pizza yet. I'm hoping that we can change that next week because by all intents and purposes, I think most places it's okay to get takeout and stuff like that. But there you have to, I think you'd have to go in to get the pizza, and I don't want to go inside there. Although that is the one place, one of the few places in Iowa that I've seen where people are actually wearing masks. And some of the comments that I was responding to today that I mentioned I was getting down here for, there has been like a resurgence in like really grumpy people, very angry at the fact that my videos that I shot while I was in Chicago during the height of like shelter in place, I was wearing masks at those videos. So like there's been like a resurgence. So I don't know if they've gotten marching orders from whoever they listen to go out there and go and like start spamming people who are wearing masks in social media or what. But I've been feeling a lot of that kind of like sentiment coming at me lately, and that's okay. It's just very strange to be so mad at a piece of fabric, but that's all right. All right, so I'm feeling much better today. A couple of you guys had mentioned that that you were hoping that I'd feel better, and yeah, the rest day was exactly what I needed, even though I didn't really want to take the rest day. And even my wife was surprised. She's like, "You're not running today?" I was like, no, remember how I was like out of commission for like 3 hours yesterday? She's like, yeah. She remembers because she had to pick up the slack while I wasn't feeling well. So I'm looking for the spider right now. Oh, I see it. I'm going to take a picture of this spider real quick just so, because you guys have been asking for it. So I'll be right back. All right. Got a picture of the spider. I'll share it later today. It's not going to be that impressive. It's not that big, but it scares me. Yeah, but I went for a run today, and I felt fantastic on the run. So it was good for my legs, good for my gut, and good for everything. So feeling good. All right, who else is here? We've got Ed Channon here saying, anyone else work from home that actually spends more time running these days and or watching Kofuzi vids than they do actually working? Well, I hope that's not true. I hope that you're getting a lot done and finding yourself being even more productive, and also at the same time being able to have more personal time and fulfilling time as well. I'm hoping that that's what people learn from this time, is that like the old model of like, I had this conversation with my wife a little while ago, like it requires people learning a new metric for management, right? Because before, management like was easy. All right, I see Jim at his desk, so he must be working. That's good, right? That was like, yeah, Jim's a hard worker. But now you have to like find a way to manage it in a different way. You actually have to like tie like work with your perception of performance. And so I think it means a lot for management. And hopefully what it means is we don't have to be tethered to our desks for 40 hours a week, that we can have flexible lives, so we could take our kids to like their soccer practices if they have those, that kind of thing. So the Faster 26.2 says, hope you're recovering well. Condolences to those not going to NYC and Berlin, me included, LOL. Yeah, the news came out today. Marathon Will shared it with me. He was the first one to tell me about it, that New York was officially canceled. I didn't know that Berlin was officially canceled as well today, but New York was a bit of a surprise, just because like I feel like they're taking their victory lap right now, and not too like and not too much in a boastful way, but like they're coming out. They got it real hard, and like they took the draconian measures, and now they're like for the better for it. And I thought that maybe by November, I still thought it wasn't likely, but I kind of had hopes that they would at least think about it for a little longer. But yeah, it's hard to say here that it's still canceled, even though we all kind of thought that's where it was going. Let's see. We got Ed Bud in here. He's saying, got so hot from his live stream, I have had to take a cold shower. Well, good to see you. I know I definitely can relate to like lights getting like super hot, and especially during live streams. When I do the live stream from upstairs, that room gets really hot. And so by the end, and I talked to you guys a lot about it too, by the end, I'd just be sweaty and it would just be really uncomfortable. So Steve Ehrenberg says, glad you're feeling better. Thank you. Bert Leguest says, I'm pretty sure you scared the spider more than it scared you. I don't know. The spider is just hanging out up there. I could see it now. It's hanging out up there. And it does not seem concerned about me whatsoever. Let me see if I can just show you guys the picture to give you guys an idea of it. I mean, yeah, you can't even like see it on camera. But there we go. Let me make it bigger. That is a spider. So just a regular spider. Nothing too terrible about it. I'm just terrified of it. That guy. There. See? He's got long legs. I mean, I don't think it's a poisonous one. I just think it's one with long legs that looks scary to me. Ben Ang says, people being mad about people wearing masks confuses me. You don't see them getting mad about others wearing pants. Yeah, it's definitely like, it confuses me too. Because it's not like mad, like, oh, I can't believe you fell for it. It's not that. It's like your concern means my lack of concern is invalid, and if my lack of concern is invalid, that means my thought, like it's this weird chain of thoughts that like somehow connects to like me saying that someone else is invalid as a human being, and it's just totally not that. Yeah, so it's weird. I know like lots of people don't think they need it, and I'm starting to think that a lot of people don't need it, especially like where I'm at here, small rural town, where the state doesn't have that many cases. Although I think we're starting to see in this state an uptick in the number of cases since Memorial Day weekend. But like if there's a place where like, like if you're a farmer, or if you live in farm rural areas, I can see not really needing to wear a mask very frequently. But then it's like, like people that live in rural communities, like don't get mad at people in urban communities for taking elevators. Those are also necessary. Yeah. I just think I don't know. I think there's something else that's there, but I can't speak for everyone that gets mad about masks. CJ Cruz says Kofuzi covers more ground than Spider-Man. Only when there's a spider in my way. Then I will. One of the first movies I ever remember watching was the movie Arachnophobia. Do you guys remember that movie? That was a Disney movie, by the way, I believe. I think John Goodman was in it. And that movie had me terrified, and it gave me bad dreams for a very long time. That's an old movie. That dates me a little bit. But it was a super old movie, and it was super scary, and that terrified me. The tarantula in Home Alone terrifies me. I just don't like spiders at all. I am convinced that if you kill a spider, like if you like took like a paper towel and like smushed the spider and then like threw that, I always flush them, because I feel like if you smush a spider and put it in the garbage, it will like recover and come back out, and then it will be angry. So I usually just let spiders go. Because I don't want to make them mad. Inez Dunbar saying, back to running tonight after my first mountain bike ride with my friends last night since lockdown. Yeah, I saw the picture. It looked like you guys were having fun, getting in some single track. And I saw the picture on Instagram. It looked like you were having a great time. I'm jealous of the terrain that you have to run and bike in over there, Inez. Adam Diss says, I ain't a marathon runner, but feel sorry to all you who are planning and training hard for a marathon. Well, I appreciate that, Adam. Yeah, and I mean, it's not just marathons that are getting canceled too. A lot of shorter races are getting canceled as well. Other distances are getting canceled. Not to say that they're shorter; they're just different distances are getting canceled as well, and that's disappointing for everyone that's been training for something. A lot of people, I think, were 2020 was going to be their year where they started running and signed up for races and started doing all these things. Hopefully, still got a chance to run, but maybe they didn't get a chance to compete. And I feel like that's like the hook for a lot of people. You run a little bit, you feel good, then you try a race, and you're like, oh, I can get better at this. And I feel like a lot of people are getting like deprived of that, like that moment, which is for me was so important. Casey A says, just wrapped up a stationary bike active recovery session. On to the foam rolling. Awesome. That's cool. Avid Runner PT is here as well. Doku Tagrin is here. Says, I'm a little late. Hello from Alberta, Canada, says Jeff. Very cool. Good to see you. Chris McLean says, Spider merch pending. I don't know. I don't think I've ever worn a Spider-Man anything. Not because Spider-Man makes me think of spiders, but just as a connection. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be a spider unless it's like a cartoon of me being terrified of a tiny little thing. Shannon says, host for a work call hasn't opened up the meeting, so Kofuzi stream for the win. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that it worked out, Shannon. Very cool. Let's see. Not really. Hank Aaron says addict scene is scary. I think you're talking about arachnophobia. Hopefully that's what you're talking. I think that's what you're talking about. Gavin Braden says, hopefully you don't need to use a nail gun to kill them. There's a lot of people that really remember the plot line of arachnophobia. That's crazy. Rosser Run says, how about the spider in The Witcher on Netflix? I've never seen that. I don't watch a lot of TV. I watch like news mainly to watch the weather. So like I really like local news. Like the more local, the better. Basically like public access, or like what public access like used to mean. Public access news in Chicago is actually really good and some of my favorite. But I like to watch that, and then the rest of the time, like the kids commandeer the TV, so I don't really get to watch much. Edbut says cup and paper, then creep up to the spider. But then I guess I have to release it outside. I don't know. What do I do with it then? Let's see. We had Kyle Patton says, howdy Kofuzi. Are you still running in the Escalante? Any more thoughts? Any more ultra/topo coming? Are those brands related? Are they like financially or like ownership wise related? I don't have any more thoughts on the Escalante. I've retired it for me. I've donated it to charity. My wife heard of a local person. I don't know if it's even a charity, but someone was collecting shoes to distribute them to a needy community. I don't remember where, some other country. It was part of like, I don't know if it was like a church mission kind of thing or what, but it was like someone that was like literally going to fly somewhere with them, I think, or send them somewhere herself. And so I donated a bunch of shoes. The Escalantes were at my 100-mile review, and so I put them in the pile for that. But I really like them. And there is more Ultra coming. Just stay tuned. It's not the Taurin. So we'll see. That will probably happen in about a little bit more than a week. You'll see that next one. Demas M says, what's up, Kofuzi? What's going on, Demas? Let's see. Jeremy Lewis says, Minneapolis Medtronic Marathon has decided to go virtual. Oh, that's a bummer. Super bummed. Hoping I can just defer to 2021. No interest in running a virtual marathon personally. Yeah. Oh, that's a shame. That is a race that I'm interested in running, the Minneapolis Marathon. I think that one would be a fun one. Because like one of my buddies, a whole bunch of us that used to live in Chicago, a lot of us have kind of split ways. One of them's down in Austin, and none of them's up in Minneapolis now. So we thought like that would be a fun one for me and my running buddy, and the guy that lives in Minneapolis, who used to be a very accomplished runner. He BQ'd when he was like 24, which I think puts you at a pretty fast pace. And then maybe 25. I forget which age group, but a younger age group where it was definitely like under 3 hours, I think was his time. And then another one of us, the one in Austin, he's not much of a runner by what he would say, but I think maybe we could convince him to do the race. So that's one that I'd like to get like a bunch of people together to run. Rasa Run says, I train for fun. I do my own events that keep me motivated. That's cool. I'm finding myself doing that too, because there aren't events to go to. And even when there are, I know there are some. In Indiana, I've heard of some trail races going on, some shorter ones. I think there's been some in Iowa that have happened. Greg Idahara told me that the Kara 1 mile race is going to go on. It's going to be a track event with lots of heats, I think. I don't think he said, I assume lots of heats. I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but they're going to do it consistent with Chicago's reopening guidelines. So events are going on, but I'm just not interested in them right now. I don't know. Adam Eat says, couldn't agree more, man. I was hoping to qualify for English schools track and have some sort of breakthrough in the 1500, but just wasn't to be this year. Sorry to hear that, Adam. That's a real bummer. I know that I feel like at like the two ends, younger runners who are in track in high school, maybe at the collegiate level, are feeling like the sense of urgency because they only have so many years of eligibility there. And then for the older runners, they're like, well, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to keep up with this pace, or before you hit like that next tier where you think you're going to have a little bit of a setback or have to slow down a little bit. And so like there's urgency at both of those ends. And it's a real bummer. I'm sorry to hear that, Adam. Bart Leguez says, I did a Tommy Hilfiger colorway on my custom Nike SB Zoom just to confuse people. That's so funny. Inez Dunbar says, let's see, where was that? Oh, I lost it. Yeah, he says mountain biking is where it's at. All right. Benjamin Shore says, do you think Boston Athletic Association will accept virtual times? I don't think so. Which is going to make it hard. I keep meaning to have a video to talk about the Boston Marathon and like kind of what they're doing, because I think what's happening with like the charity people is really weird. I understand it from all sides, but I think it's just an unfortunate situation all the way around. And so I keep meaning to have that video, but I feel like now is probably not the right time for that. But I think 2021 is going to be a year where everyone's very happy to be running it, and there's going to be a lot of people that are very unhappy that they're not. So it's going to be tough, I think. David Cohen says, do you breathe through your mouth or nose when running? I do both. On easier paces, it's I usually almost always in through the nose, out through the mouth. It's just a matter of like the rhythm. Sometimes it's in two, out two. Sometimes it's in two, out one. Sometimes it's in one, out one. Sometimes it's in one, out two. Just depends. And then sometimes I also alternate it with some of the breaths are shallower, and then every once in a while I'll take a very intentionally deep breath, try to get to like move the diaphragm and get to the bottom of the lung, just to make sure I'm using that whole thing. So I just kind of mix it up a little bit. Dave says, hi from hot and sunny Wales. I don't think a lot of people describe Wales that way. At least I've never been, but I've not heard a lot of people describe it that way. But interesting to hear that it's hot and sunny there. Keep up the great work. How are the legs feeling? Legs are feeling great, Dave. Thank you so much for asking. The rest day was exactly what I needed. I just think that I've been pounding a lot of miles into them and they were getting mushy. The thing is, I think that the legs were, as tired as they weren't the thing that made me feel like, not so great on the Monday run. I think it was like there wasn't any fuel in the tank to run on. And so the body was just like, nope, we're stopping. Kind of like, like whenever I try to walk my dog too far and at a certain point he'll just lie down. My body kind of did like the equivalent of that. Let's see. Kyle Patton says, heyo, what's up, fellow MTB riders? What's going on? Ed Butt says, Mike, when is the Short Shorts 10K time trial coming? It's going to be July 3rd because I wanted to make the video come out July 4th. July 4th being the United States Independence Day, but also the day of the Atlanta Peachtree 10K road race, which is where like this shirt and the shorts and the singlet were all designed for that race. So I figured I'd make it kind of to commemorate the same day. So it's a little bit distant from when I like threw out the challenge of like getting that 500 likes, which you guys easily surpassed. But I figured I'd make it the same day. So that way there could be a little still kind of like, I know they're planning on still running it in November. Who knows if they still will. but they're planning on it. But it's still not on the 4th of July, which is what it normally is. I think the lights just changed. The spider's still at the same spot. Don't worry, guys. Greg Thomas says, how do I talk my more experienced partner into trying math with me? Seems tough to train with partners in general with math. I would say, Greg, it is. I'd say I think the hardest part about math is that if you're a person that thrives on training and running with a group, I would almost say like it's going to be very hard for you to do it, because even if you can convince someone else to do it with you, their pace for their math heart rate might still be faster or might be a lot slower than yours. And so one of the two of you might not be running at the correct pace. Not that it's that precise that you have to be like on the exact like per minute and second per mile. But, if one of the two of you is substantially off, it can affect like kind of your progress of it. And so, I was trying to get a lot of people to try it if they were inclined. Not that I was trying to win converts or proselytize, but I was trying to tell people when the shelter in place and people are running in treadmills by themselves, or running outside by themselves and having to remain distant, that was a great time to do it. And I think it's probably still a very good time to do it, because it's not like we're completely out of the woods in terms of that kind of thing. So I would say my approach to it is like, if someone thinks it's garbage, great, that's cool. I'm just going to try this for a little while if you think that's all right. If you're okay with me doing something with my training that I want to try, that has no impact on you, if that's all right with you, I'm going to try it. I got a lot of flack for it. I understand where it comes from, but it's counterintuitive in a lot of ways, but it seems to have worked for me. I guess the real proof would be an impressive PR or marathon time, but I feel like I'm more able to absorb higher mileage, generally, as long as I maintain the fueling properly. But I'm also able to absorb more intensity when I get to those portions in the marathon training block. And so that's kind of where I feel like the benefits are. It might just have to be something that, Greg, you do on your own. And then once your partner sees like, oh, okay, Greg's not crazy, he's onto something, they might follow suit. If they don't want to, I think it's hard enough to kind of figure out, because it's just so counterintuitive on so many levels and frustrating on a lot of levels, that like, if they're not into it, they're just gonna be like, see, I told you it doesn't work, so I wouldn't worry about pushing them too hard. Let's see. Mr. Random says, hello team. Who do you think is a second place in the Carbon Shoe Wars? That's an interesting question. Interesting way it's framed. Presumes that there is a number one that we all agree on. Bump Tub says, British spiders are more polite. That's funny. Luis Becerra says, leave it inside. They help eating mosquitoes. Well, we do have a lot of mosquitoes, and you guys, I'm sure, see me like fidgeting. It's because I'm scratching my mosquito bites. I'm itchy, so that's what's going on. So maybe I will leave it. It seems to be taking a nap of some sort now. Let's see. Dave said, did you manage to get a taco pizza in the end? I didn't. I really want one. And even though taco pizza has meat, and I don't eat meat anymore. Well, I still eat fish, but I think that, since we're here for the summer, I'm going to have to make an exception and eat taco pizza. Hopefully that'll be soon. We got to figure it out. I got to talk it over with my wife when she feels comfortable with me doing that. I'm thinking what I'll do is I'll probably get it from Happy Joe's and see if they'll bring it out to me outside, so that way I don't have to go in there. I'd feel comfortable with that. Let's see. All right. Martha's here. She says, hi guys, stopping in. Got caught away from home with only my phone. Hate typing on it, but nice to catch the spider theme. Oh, good to see you, Martha. Glad you're here. See Chad Run says, I'm here late, but here. Glad to have you, Chad. Claimed a Strava segment crown by running low 6-minute pace uphill. Oh yeah, that's intense. I hope you get to keep it for a long time, because low 6 minutes at going uphill sounds terrible. I don't like that at all, but well done. Gabriel Santos says, hello to all from Porto, Portugal. Hi, how are you, Gabriel? Jeff Elliott says, I think I've decided not to run any races this year, especially now that fall marathons are being canceled. Yeah, I think for a lot of people, they won't have a choice, Jeff, but I'm kind of leaning that way. I don't know if I'll, I don't know when I'll feel comfortable running a race. I mean, I suppose like if there were an event, I just don't know. I can't say, like, I can't envision it in my mind yet. So you might be on to something, Jeff. Jeff Elliott says, any advice for a potential stress fracture in the first metatarsal? The only advice I could say is consult a medical professional. I don't know. I don't think I could help it with that. Yeah, I mean, if it's a stress fracture, I mean, rest until it heals. But I don't know. I would definitely get that checked out. Antonio Gutierrez says, hey, Kofuzi, any tips on how to make my long runs longer? I've been running for a year, but every time I try to run longer than ever before, I fail to do so. Slow down. I mean, if your goal for the long run isn't pace, your goal for the long run is distance. So make it so that, I mean, even if at the end you're like, oh, I can even run another half mile, or I can run another mile. Great, then go run that other mile, right? So like if the goal is for distance, don't worry about the time. After you've conquered the distance, then you can work on the time. So that's what I would do. If it helps, listen to a podcast. I always find that conversations or like audiobooks help me to slow down, because then I'm not like, the music then isn't like charging me and getting me all like riled up, and I can maintain slower paces. Let's see. We've got Frank Lahoulier says, I keep wanting to say Lahoulier, but I'm glad you're correcting me on it. I hope I'm saying it right now, Frank. Does COVID mean that there are going to be a lot more competitors once racing starts back up? Or does it mean that a lot of competitors won't be in shape because they gave up training? I think that there's going to be more competitors. I think there's going to be more people signing up for races. I think that a lot of people are going to I think everyone's going to go bump up a level, right? So if you've been on the couch, you'll be at the 5K. If you've been at the 5K, you may be looking for 10Ks or half marathons. If you've been running a whole bunch of half marathons, you're probably ready to start training for a marathon now. So I think that there's just going to be a lot more people hopefully at every level. And that's what I hope. And I think that'd be great. J. Mike Remy says, is this a bad time to convince your runner folks to give cycling a try? A century ride is wicked good fun to replace a marathon. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about getting a bike. I mean, I'm waiting to see what the courts say in Cook County and Chicago in terms of when they plan on opening. I think the last I heard, they were closed until after the 4th of July holiday. So I think that also means that they will probably be revisiting that and deciding whether or not they can reopen. I don't know how it can happen. So, but like, I think that if they stay closed for another month, like till August, and it means we're probably going to spend like the summer here, I think then at that point, I'll probably get a bike too. I'll probably just try to buy one. Maybe, I don't know if I can buy one from like a bike shop here and just have them like I'll give you my credit card number over the phone, just leave the bike outside, I'll come get it kind of thing. We'll see. But yeah, the running is great here. The cycling is, I think it's probably even better for cycling. KCA says the BAA 10K and half still slated for the fall. Fingers crossed. Ooh, that'll be interesting to see if that goes. Jeff Elliott says, I've been thinking about getting my bike back working. Talking to J. Mike Remy's suggestion, trying to convince some people to get on the bikes. Very cool. Mike Gamber says, have you seen the New Balance Speedrift? Yes. Actually, Ed Bud has a pair. He showed his to me the other day. So it's interesting. It's weird. It's a very weird looking shoe. I don't understand it yet. I'll have to wait to see what Ed says more about it. Tyler Weldon says, saying hello from Alabama. Well, hello to you, Tyler. Good to see you. Dave says, are you still aiming for sub-3 marathon? How are you going to use 2020 to get there with the new normal? I mean, it's still like a goal that's out there. We'll have to see. You know, I mean, that's where all the training is going to go if I get into another marathon training block. And so we'll see if I make another attempt in 2020. I mean, it also seems like, you know, as much as I hate like virtual races and don't like doing time trials, if I feel like I get a good block of training in, and maybe like in August, Maybe I'll do that. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. But how am I going to use 2020 to get there with the new normal? I think what I'm going to do is just run a lot of miles and build a lot of base strength, take advantage of all the hills that are here, and get in that hill work that I've always been putting off in Chicago. And so that's kind of like what I'm going to do. And we'll see where that gets me, I think. And I think that, like, you know, it'll, with a lot of the base mileage, that'll put me in a good position once, like, I can put a race on the calendar to say, all right, time to turn it on now. And I don't need 16 weeks. I can do it in 10 kind of thing. That's what I'm hoping for. All right. Super Schmaltz says, sleep regression is finally coming to an end. Unfortunately, his naps are lining up with his husband's phone meetings, says Super Schmaltz, but here's to tomorrow. Well, at least the sleep regression is coming to an end. And I definitely can relate to, like, some of their regressive behavior in some of the kids. I'm sure a lot of you others that are out there that have young ones are experiencing it too. And maybe that if you have older kids, they're doing it as well. But, like, the baby was, like, very well potty trained. And then, you know, once everything started happening and all the changes started happening, she wanted her pull-ups more. And she's never baby talked ever, but she's been doing a lot of baby talking. And then some of her behavior is a little bit more impulsive and impatient. And I think that's just a lot of just frustration with, like, you know, her not being able to see her friends or interact with people that are her own age group. Starting to, like, that's how that manifests itself. And sleep regression has also been a thing for us too. The kids' sleep is horrible right now. Part of that is, like, my wife and I have been like, that's one of the few things that we care about. Like, I mean, we don't care about that. It's like one of the things that we're happy to let go. They can sleep when they're tired. Although they're just so rarely tired, it seems. But hopefully we'll get you tomorrow. Ed Chan says, ever totally zone out on a run? Like, you're at mile 2 and the next thing you know, you're at mile 6. It's the best feeling, by the way. Yeah. I think people call it different things. But I call it, like, you know, when you get into a flow. Again, I guess that's a yoga term. But when you get into a rhythm, get locked in, and the breathing's good, the pacing's good, and you're just running. Yeah, it's like running nirvana. It's great. I love that. It's rare and fleeting, but when you get it, it's so nice. J. Mike Remy says, math training with a buddy works well over the phone. Very well, actually. That sounds like it would. That's brilliant. I like that idea. And Bert Leguez says, the first one out of breath loses. That's funny. Chris Meadow says, Knoxville, Tennessee doing their first race back next month since the virus hit, and it'll be a 10K. Interesting. Oh, that'll be interesting to see how that goes. What was I seeing of a race? Oh, it was for the Homburg Marathon, where they're going to run waves of people, like 10-minute increments, so that there's lots of space. Like, I'm guessing, like, that, like, pretty much a lot of the races will have kind of rolling starts, but, like, very scheduled but rolling starts. But that'll be interesting how that Knoxville 10K goes. You'll have to let me know, Chris, how that ends up going. Are you going to race it next month, or are you just aware of it and just staying cautiously away? Pangsu said, would run walk training work for math? I mean, for a lot of people, the beginning phases of maffetone is run walking. And so I would say yes, it would, because it helps you stay within that heart rate zone. And for me, it was a lot of walking. It was very frustrating, but yes, it was a lot of walking. Doku Tagarin says, I use math as a guide to keep my pace down for 80-20 or 90-10 training approach. Yeah, and that's exactly how I'm using it now too. So, like, I don't find myself very strictly adhering to it, and I clearly don't use some of the dietary approaches or the stress relieving approaches to training that it suggests. And so I use the formula as a way of defining what easy is, because left to my own devices, my own, like, sense of what easy is will be too hard for the most part still. And so I use it the same way Doku Tagarin does. Steve Ironberg says, I'll talk in a chat, I'll let that go. We've got Jody Run says, math is currently, where'd that go? It just jumped on me. I think I just lost it. Oh, Jody Run says, math is currently working for me coming back from injury. Oh, that's great. And that makes a lot of sense that it would. Helps you ease back in there. And hopefully it makes sure that you're staying stronger as you can start building back up. But I'm glad to hear that it's working well. Colin Lee says, yo, what's going on? Any tricks, cues that you're going easy pace? Start off using nose breathing to force this, but over time I realized I was able to do harder paces while keeping my mouth closed, but the HR higher. That's kind of what we're talking about, Colin, is that that's why I like to use heart rate to help me figure out whether you're using percentage of max heart rate or using a Maffetone formula. It just gives me some sort of at least of a metric that I can tether to a definition of easy. Again, I don't think it's so strictly precise that if you're using a percentage formula, that definition of easy is completely inconsistent with easy running, whereas Maffetone would be, or vice versa. But I liked Maffetone for me. I thought it worked well for me eventually. But yeah, so that's I would recommend considering either using a power meter or a heart rate meter. Power could be another way that you can kind of have a metric that tells you what easy is. And when you buy Stride, it'll help you figure out what those are. Daniel M is disappointed that I didn't get taco pizza. Unsubscribed. Well, I will. I'm hoping within the next week. I've been saying that for weeks. No one's more disappointed than me, let me tell you. Roadrunner Reviews got to run. Good to see you. See you again soon, I'm sure. Let's see. Mr. Ram says, what's the difference between MAF training and the 80-20 training, or is it the same concept? It's very different concepts, but they're not necessarily inconsistent. So the idea with Maffetone training is that that the majority of your running should be very easy. If not all of your running should be very easy for maximum benefit and to increase cardiac strength. And there's a general formula where it's 180 minus your age, and there's plus or minuses that you can add to it as well, but that's the general gist. And it says that you should do almost all of your running, or if not all of your running, at least in the beginning or onboarding phases, a couple of months. That way your cardiovascular system can get stronger. With the idea that then when you go to race a marathon, you can run at marathon paces at less apparent effort. 80-20 training is kind of a slightly different concept, but it says that easy stuff should be very easy and hard stuff should be very, very hard. Too many people do a lot of stuff that's kind of moderately hard, enough to make you feel good at the end of the run, but not intense enough to really make your body have to adapt, and not easy enough to let your body to recover to have really good high quality training. And so that's the concept between 80-20. The way that they can work together is that, well, okay, if 80% of my running has to be easy, how do you define easy? For a lot of people, they just say, oh, just run easy. But for me, when I was running easy, it ended up being at a pretty intense heart rate. So I used the Maffetone as a guide to help me figure out what this 80% should be at. So that's kind of how the two intersect. Let's see what else we got here. Bert Leguez says, I got the crown on his 1K uphill dead end trail. Only 20 people ran there, all completed by accident because they took a wrong turn and got lost. Awesome. Well, hopefully you'll be able to hold on to that one then for a long time. Bert has a crown that he got today by running 6-minute or low 6-minute per mile pace. 1K uphill. That's a big uphill. That's so funny. Can you imagine the other 20 people that ran there though? They ran a kilometer uphill, and then when they got to the top, it was a dead end and they had to just turn around. Oh man, that's insult to injury. Very funny. Bert says, but hey, a crown is a crown. For sure. Greg Itahara says, are there any places in Chicago to get taco pizza, or is it a destination place food thing? Days of talking about taco pizza has me curious and hungry. There are places in Chicago to get taco pizza. There are a couple of places. I think there was one, I don't know if it's still open, but I think it was I want to say it was in Wicker Park, that claimed that it was an Iowa style pizza place. I haven't eaten there yet, but they said they were Iowa style with square slices versus triangular slices, which I feel like is more of a Western Iowa or Central Iowa to Western Iowa thing. Because over here in Eastern Iowa, I've not seen very many square slices. But so they claim to be an Iowa pizzeria, and they had a taco pizza. But I thought that I've seen one of the, I don't know which one it was, but I thought I've seen one of the deep dish restaurants offer taco pizza. I don't think they offer it on their deep dish, but on their thin crust. So you'd have to look at the menu. It's coming over. It's definitely in Chicago, Greg. You can find it. I think you just have to look, and I think that you don't have to look far. But I don't think it's not going to be at like the big chains, but I think you can find it. Time Matt says, super late. What's up though? Well, good to have you here. Good to see you. Better late than never. KD says, lots of new runners in London, in the UK, from work from home or furlough. Yeah, that's cool. That's good. Roster Run says, what do you think about big events like UTMB? Will there be giant events again? I think once there's a vaccine, it worries me that Dr. Fauci seems to be so sure that there'll be something by the end of 2020. I don't think that Dr. Fauci would be saying anything that he didn't really believe, but it just seems it seems to be too confident. But I'm hoping that's true, that there is somewhere at the end of 2020, early 2021 that we have a vaccine. And I think once that happens, then there will be big events again. But until then, I don't think there'll be giant events again until that. Colin Baker says, I have a crown from 6 years ago on a big hill by Old House. I pulled up the run on Strava the other day and saw that it was in Vibrant Five Fingers. That's amazing. That's amazing. It's like a time capsule. Because not only is it 6 years ago, but it's in Vibrant Five Fingers. Very cool. Very cool. Warren Watson says, do you think any high school cross-country seasons will be canceled this year? I think it's highly likely that they will be. I think what's interesting, like here in Iowa, high school sports have already started. So Iowa plays baseball, men's baseball in the fall, which I think is very different than most other places. But that's already started. Football has already started. I think soccer has already started as well. So team sports have started in Iowa, which is weird because it's June. But sports have a very important part of the culture and the lifestyle here. And so they're already starting. And lots of colleges are starting to participate as well. And so I think that we're going to see what's happening. What we've seen so far is that it seems like a lot of the teams that are practicing, they're starting to get little clusters of cases. So if that continues, I think it's very likely that we don't see fall sports, especially not cross-country season. Just because I feel like most athletic departments are looking for reasons not to have cross-country already. I think that kind of like just general, like not animus, but like, I'd rather I didn't have to worry about that team of weirdos. That feeling I think has been there for years, and I think is still there in a lot of places. I hope that that's not the case, but I think depending on what happens with like some of these football teams, NCAA and at the high school level, I think that'll dictate what happens for cross country. Stevie76 says cycle with 2-inch shorts. That's funny. Kyle Patton says, any sub 2 half tips? I'm struggling in Georgia humidity, but when the temps and humidity drop, I can drop 30 to 45 seconds per mile. Low and slow or mixing speed, 6 months till the race. I think if you've got 6 months till the race, Kyle, put in a lot of base miles and don't worry so much about the pace on any one given day. Just build in, make your deposits in the bank. Get in those long miles, those long runs, even when it's hot and humid. If it's hot and humid, dial that speed back a little bit to just be kind to yourself so you're not running in Georgia humidity in the summertime and trying to kill yourself every day. I mean, as long as you subscribe to the idea that you can't run till you collapse every day and also get better, that also means the flip side of that means some days should be easier than others. And so keep that in mind. Some days go easy. Maybe make your long run day your low and slow day. Don't worry about pace. Get your most comfortable shoes you can find and just hit the distance, get your time on feet, and make those deposits again. And then once you start getting closer, then start worrying about speed and pace. Let's see what else we got here. Bub Tub says lakefront path is open, beach is closed. Yeah, I saw that. It still makes me nervous, but I've been seeing, it makes me nervous to see that. Let me finish that sentence first. But I've already been seeing all the runners that I know in Chicago have been running along the lakefront for a good week and a half now, I think. Because I just think enforcement stopped with everything that was going on else in the city. But I think it's progress. I think it's very sensible to allow that. I think it's going to take a lot of pressure off streets and sidewalks. And I think it'll help people stay socially distant. And then I think it'll help with a lot of like the tension that had been developing, it seemed, between pedestrians, runners, and bicyclists. So I think it's a great move. Jen from Moss says, it's great that there are more runners and most of us are just running for the sake of running instead of for races. Yeah, I think it's good for people. I think it's good for our mental health, our physical health. Hopefully it's good for our respiratory health as well, and we can stay healthy doing it. All right. Luis Becerra says, maybe I should stop listening to trance music in terms of talking about pace. Yeah, that'll get you moving. Another one says, do you prefer a route with small hills or just a big one? Any tip on running uphill without exhausting yourself? I'd say tips for running uphill without exhausting yourself. Not that I'm an expert. I'm still very new to them and not as that skilled at them. Is small steps, and don't try to power through it. Just try to like keep the leg turnover really quick. Think of it like if you're on a bike and you reduce the gear so that way you could just turn them real fast and keep going up the hill. Your legs might be moving fast, your bike might not be, but you're moving and you're not like destroying yourself to try to get up the hill. That's kind of how I approach it. Lean forward a little bit as you're charging up the hill as well. In terms of preferring a route, I'd prefer to have one big one, and that's like my favorite route out here, has one big one at the beginning, and then is just, there's some ups and downs, but it's generally flat for the rest of the time, and then a big downhill at the end. That's kind of like how I like to do it, just because I don't like hills. But I think probably it depends on what you're training for. I don't think one's necessarily better or worse than another. It depends in terms of, I think, preference, but I prefer just one big one. I can't say one's better than the other, but I prefer just one big one. Let's see. Tony Yu says, all right, well, I'm going long today. Sorry I'm not catching up to everybody. Where's that Tony Yu one? Let's do that. Where'd it go? Sorry about that. Oh, here we go. Here's where I was. Tony Yu. Would you ever do a marathon in North Korea? It popped up on my YouTube, so yeah, it does exist. I've thought about that. Not right now, I wouldn't, and not anytime in the near future, because things are crazy tense right now. But I love the idea of it. But I can't imagine me doing it without somehow accidentally being accused of spying, because I would bring so many cameras with me. So that would make me really just nervous to do it. I love the idea of it, but there seems to be a lot of risk in doing it. I've seen the videos on YouTube about the North Korean marathon. North Koreans always like sweep in terms of 1, 2, 3, and then it's like an American or maybe like a Kenyan comes in fourth or something like that. That's generally how it tends to go. I can't imagine, like, if I had the chance to win it, like in some weird like circumstance, I would definitely slow down and let someone else win. I would never break tape on that race for sure. All right. Let's see. We got Joshua Payne says, I'm doing a local 5K on July 4th here. About 50 people normally run it, so it shouldn't be too bad. Excited to race again. That's cool. Yeah. So I think that like the small races like that are definitely going to be the first to go. Although, I mean, they might run the North Korean marathon this year. Who knows if they do? I don't know what time of year they normally run it. Let's see. BubTub says, Steve, I run on the south side lakefront, tons of space. Because I think there were some questions in terms of how busy is the lakefront. Yeah. Brian Kerr says, there's a 10K planned in Carlisle, UK on August 1st and 2nd, starting at 8 a.m. and 6 people starting every 10 minutes. 800 runners over 2 days. Wow. And you sync the planned finishing time so runners finish apart. Oh, okay. Wow, but that's going to take 2 days. Wow, that's crazy. But, I mean, that's quite ambitious. Very cool. Very cool. Amazing. All right. My mouse just froze up. I think that's a good place to leave it for today. It is 3:53, so I've gone a little bit long. Sorry to keep you guys here longer than kind of normal. I try to keep it at about, I used to try to keep it at about 30 minutes, but we've been going usually about 40 to 45 minutes. I feel like that's a good amount of time. So that way I'm not rambling too long. So there'll be another video tomorrow. Tomorrow the Edbud video collab comes out. His should be out much sooner than mine. Mine will be up when I finish editing it and when I wake up in the morning. So that'll be up in the morning, and then we'll do another live stream at 3 p.m. Central Time. And tomorrow's Thursday, right? So tomorrow's Thursday. So it'll be happy hour. I'm looking at the beers that are over there that my wife bought last time she went grocery shopping. So I will have beer available. So you don't have to drink beer or have anything alcoholic, but happy to have you join with your beverage of choice. All right. In the meantime, hope you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks, everybody.